Everybody, welcome back to Swing Trading. My name is Mike Fairboard. It's good to be back here with you today for this class where we do look at those shorter term moves in the market, really trying to capture some of the bigger portions of the trend. Generally, is what we look for in this class. It is good to be back though with you. Interesting weeks. There has been, definitely some volatility up and down. We see a big down day followed by a big up day. But what are we seeing in terms of just the general setup within the market and the potential for a potential rally, as well as what does that mean for, let's say, specific groups that are showing strength? Can we find some swing trades out there? Well, turns out there are some interesting setups that are kind of forming in many of those sectors. And I want to take a look at those with you today. We've got some other things to look at as well, but yeah, it'll be great. I also want to take a look at volume too, because a lot of times volume right now we're seeing some groups of companies that are showing indications of volume, and volume can kind of precede price action. So I did want to look at volume, the volume indicator here to help us along the way. That can be quite useful, giving us an early indication that the swing trade might be upcoming, a bullish swing trade. But with that, hello to you, Paul, Jenny, Michelle. Welcome, Jenny. Welcome, Michael. Good to have you back. Hello to you, Robert, as well as Jay Richardson, Olga. We've got many others in here. Sharon Scott and Will. How you doing, Will, and others? Folks, I'm joined in the chat by a good friend of mine and a great guy, just in general to hang around with. I'll just say JB's and I spent quite a bit of time together, had some good times outside of trading. Of course, we always do tend to talk about trading, but that is JB. You'll see him in the chat as James Boyd. Folks, any questions, comments you have, throw those in the chat so we can help address those for you. Just 1 second. There we go. All right. Well, on that note, let's hit some disclosures to get the show on the road here. Now, this material is intended for general information and education purposes only. Options do carry a high level of risk. It's not suitable for all investors. Short options, they can be assigned at any time up to expiration, regardless of the in-the-money amount. Now, paper money software application is for education purposes only. Investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal, and for some products and strategies, more than the loss of your initial investment. Now, there's no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price. Past performance, no guarantee of future results. If we dive into dividends, just wanted to state dividends are not guaranteed. And lastly, a look at our futures and futures options disclosures, because futures and futures options trading does involve substantial risk suitable for all investors. We just look at the charts here, but I did want to look at the charts, and so I've just gone ahead and highlighted that so we can pull it up and take a look at the charts. All right. Well, with that, we are going to just share our screen and get going here with some SPX. And, I'm going to keep this on. Yeah, this was from the class on Friday, markets and sectors class, just looking at where those markets have been formulating. We're just getting kind of a move right here that might also signify the possibility of a bounce follow through. You guys can see right there. And I think we've done a few things with this, with the triangle pattern specifically, measuring the longest length of the triangle, that price range right there added to the breakout of the upper or the lower line. It could be down below, it could be up above. A lot of times with the trend, it's the upper line, the upper downward sloping trend line that we are in fact focusing on. You can see that right there. That right there is your target. That sets us up really close to about 7,900, right between that 8,000 and 7,800. It's right in the middle range there, pretty much. Now, that could represent still from where we're at right now, which is about 7,500 and change, about 7,550, getting close to it. A move coming up through here. Now, that could be of interest for some traders that are looking for maybe a follow-through rally in here. I think a lot of it, folks, could have to do with where we find ourselves at right now, which is smack dab in the middle of earnings, right? How are earnings going to pan out, all else being equal? And as you note, this is just an interesting way to look at this. If we look at the earnings calendar, you can see that, yeah, we really did start up today with earnings. Let's see. Well, actually yesterday. So a bunch of financials, Bank of America, Citi, Goldman, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, as well. So that can also give us direction too. Kind of a lot of times we can get started out of the gates for earnings, quite strong. If those companies are looking good. Let's run through a few of those right now, just see how they've been doing. not a bad move. Bank of America, Citi, a little bit down. There's Goldman, clearly a strong move there. Just be thinking about so a kind of a catalyst to get us moving higher out of the S&P 500 so that it might set up for a number of swing trades within stocks within the S&P 500. JP Morgan had a big range move today as well. So JP Morgan, look at some of these. I mean, this is kind of a classic what we look at here. Sort of a big upward move, sideways channel. What am I drawing in there? I am drawing a flag type pattern. That flag pattern too, you have to say, did clear some prior highs. And even the longer term high over here, try to draw that straight. There you go. But some pretty good movement over there. And a lot of times, I know James looks at this. I look at this. Many of you do too. But earnings can play, a key factor in getting outside of what was sort of a longer term consolidation. As I draw this, you can see over here, well, kind of. There's your flag at the end. Really, a flag can be part of a rounded type bottom, which can also be part of a cup and handle pattern too. Remember, you're getting the earnings over here. Now we're just saying, hey, some of the financials could be interesting here, but all else equal, that could be. I mean, well, earnings was a positive, at least as it was today. It looks to be like the highest closing price, even though we're not. I mean, we could be on board for the highest closing price for this company. It might be. Yeah, there's a long-term weekly chart. I think it might be right now trading in a height, obviously, an all-time high range. When we close up there, perhaps really interesting. You can see down here with that on-balance volume, very, very similar, right? Looking at accumulation versus distribution there, clearing these ranges as well. That is a positive sign. We're seeing some buying coming in. By the way, we're extending above that level. This simply suggests, because we're going to pick up on this theme later, possibility of more runs. This is the first one I wanted to kind of look at, just generally speaking, because it is tied into earnings a little bit. But so we just kind of dove down a little bit into financials because it's first up, and oftentimes it can get us started for earnings season. A lot of folks will look at that. Coming back to the S&P though, here we are. Okay, we're just barely starting to kind of get moving here. Financials obviously playing a key role in the move today. We could just look at the NDX as well and say, yeah, the NDX is moving up about 300 and change right now, a little over 1%, but tech heavy as well, tech. So we've got the tech side too. We're definitely going to be getting some of the technology companies coming in too. But do you see something here as well? Maybe a triangle that has not yet broken out. Let's get some actual lines in here so we can present this to just so we have something to look at. It's great because when we're using this on Thinkorswim, these lines are just going to stay active every time we come back, as long as we paint these bars on here and draw them on down. Now I'm going to kind of just draw this. I'm going to touch off this top, kind of where the closing prices were. We're kind of getting towards the apex of the triangle here. But you can see there was a pretty sizable move within that triangle, and that's exactly what we like to look for here when prices might be breaking up. We can also say breaking down again on the triangle. It can be either way, but that price distance right there, depending upon where we break out at, we draw it from that level. So upside, if we were to break out here, let's go ahead and just jump back to that. I can draw that in fine, but let's get the actual levels in here. Approximately, it'd be about right here to here. I'm going to take this now that I've drawn that and just simply move it over to wherever I expect that breakout to be. Let's just say it happens here. That is the upper trajectory of that triangle, and that's a pretty decent move for technology, probably in general. It definitely on the tech side, right? It's definitely weighted towards technology, but there you go. And for me, I mean, all of us folks, what do we see behind the scenes as we look at this? Because there's always the question, what side is it going to break out? Because it could break out down here too. I mean, I'm just drawing it through here. You could see that as well. Look, equivalent, right? Equivalent price to price over here, up or down, wherever it does break up, wherever it does break down, we're taking that longest range, right? Enough said on that. But the trend. Oh yeah. What was a favorite for Pat? Yeah. Definitely Pat Blakely. I don't know about Pat Mullally, but yeah, there were a couple of Pats that probably did use it. But it is interesting. You know, we're not seeing it here, but remember, we can see it over here, Olga and everybody. And that's why I did read those disclosures, futures, so we could take a look at it. But here is your ES. Look at that, just nice and flat over here too. Sometimes you'll get a move coming out, which can help us to see that move break up higher. But I mean, it can give us an early indication. We're going to see that on some of our swing trades today for sure. But look what you got here. Look at that. We're right there, just knocking on the door of that prior resistance right through there once, twice, three times, holding right there. Could we see a follow through here? That's the question. But this is exactly the interesting thing is what are we getting through here? Is we stop and look at this, whether it's the S&P, whether it's the ES, it's very, very similar. We're getting it on the NASDAQ as well. We're getting somewhat of just a higher lift as we're getting closer and closer. Are we coiling up for that move? Okay, we saw some numbers come out today. And by the way, definitely consider giving us a follow on X. James Boyd, CS. James will put that in the chat. Got some awesome stuff in there. I'm always very active in posting on X. But also, you know, we had well, let's see, we had some data coming out, like CPI and other points. Anyways, we had some strong numbers. A lot of it is looking in hindsight, of course, but it's when we do that, we look in hindsight. I mean, basically what we're doing is we're saying there was some strength. Will that strength continue to go forward? And the market's responding to some of that. But I mean, if you start to see additional strength within the market too, well, that could help to factor in as well. We are looking at large baskets, the large basket of stocks here, right? Within the S&P 500. Futures specifically here. Let me go ahead and just take a look at seasonality real quick. Just to highlight this over the last 5 years is fine. Very, very similar over the last 10 years. But just a reminder, as we look at this, the summer rally type time frame, generally, not in all cases, but oftentimes first part of July to about mid-August. That's kind of the seasonal drift that you're getting right here to the upside. Do you see that right there? We're still in the midst of that. So this could so this is the average of seasonal behavior over the last 5 years. 10 is very, very similar. 20, almost the same as 10. There you go again. First part of July, that's a 10-year. This one actually ran to the end of August, but we have this kind of working in our favor too. Now, this line is made up of years that didn't work out, of course, some that did, some that didn't, but on average, January to December, this is what we're looking at here. So park that in your mind as we look back at the S&P 500 index right over here for a possible breakout. Okay, so a lot going on behind the scenes. I want to dive into some of those right now. Before I do that, though, here's a stock that was in the news today too. Some of their sales might have been delayed, so you might see it, you know, as short-term bad news. Maybe it can be better later on. There are a few things going on there, but that is a pretty big move. 24% down, and notice it is ahead of earnings. I think a few people might have been caught off guard on that one. That's a big volume spike right there, just to extend that up. IBM definitely in the news, but they said that they were just sort of late to the party was kind of the wording on a few different things. And anyhow, they got behind curve a little bit, and there is the result. So really, the things that you often just try to avoid when you're trading are scenarios and setups like that, for sure. But it's always, you know, a good reminder just to see what is out there, what can happen, even with some of the bigger established companies. Here is your sector rotation grid. A quick note on this. Again, this is looking for potential rotation into a given sector. This is a 1 week. The reason why I like to focus in on that is it just lets me know where we might see some of the strength coming in relative to the S&P 500 as it is on the verge of breaking higher. So I did want to focus in on a couple of key areas today: technology and communication services, where you're going to get the Google in there, and likely, again, Amazon's in there too. But you'll notice, look at the strength, relatively speaking. Even though the S&P 500, folks, has been strong, and it has, it's coiling higher right towards that resistance level that we were just looking at in terms of our triangle pattern. Okay. But with that, these are even stronger because they're going up even faster, relatively speaking. Communication services clearly, but let me highlight this for you just as we go back to it. Some of the stocks in that area, if we just take a look at Google over here, okay, so it's showing more strength relative to the market over at least maybe this time frame over here. It was a little bit more than a week, but you can see us running up. Now look at this closely. I have in here some lines and they're just not lining up. They didn't break higher on that hold right there. I'm going to clear this off. I know it was one that we were looking at one point in time, but now we're kind of seeing in this particular group right here, right there, resting on prior highs. We might be in hold area here. Remember, earnings coming up, that's always a big factor. Earnings is, right? Clearly a big factor. But even within the possibility of an extended, and this is going towards sort of the longer time frame of a swing trade, but the swing trade could still easily fit right in here. This could get us going. Notice over here with me, shoulder, head, shoulder, all within a longer type flaggish pattern that is holding on a prior high over here. We did bounce off that prior high as well. That range, we did bounce off it. Okay. And are we getting a higher low in here? That's really the question. Let's zoom this in so we can actually, oh, let's just go right here. Oh, that's actually fine. So here's the zoom in on it right there. And you can see right there what we've got. We've got this pullback, kind of a starting level right here. Of course, there are earnings, and that's always a question. We want to be very, very cautious about that as we look at, a stock like Google here, what we might see. I'm going to do this and just show everybody. There was a question that came in fairly recently about the moving averages, because I did mention that you can set up like an alert, at least an alert on a moving average so that you can be notified of the price of the stock going above a moving average. Let's set this up right now. It'll just be in yellow. That's a 10-period moving average. A lot of times you'll find that, and I know JB's talked a lot about shorter term moving averages because they can be very, very interesting indications. I mean, the average of prices are in fact changing, and if you can move above the average within a trend, well, that can be a sign that maybe that trend is getting ready to get going. Over here, case in point, look at this over here. We broke above that level and we just kept on going. I mean, we held above it for a while. A lot of this major price action is held just above the 10 that period moving average. Just a lot of strength. And I know JB's done a lot of classes on this, but you could see it. I mean, visually, there's just a lot of price action. Well, here we are again with maybe an indication here right there too. Okay. Now, sometimes if you're watching this, you don't know if prices have broken above it or not. So you kind of need to watch it. This is the trajectory of that pattern. Here's the high. Here's the low. If we can break above the trend line right there, again, inverted head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder pattern. Do we want to maybe give it a little bit of room to just see what it can do? Yeah, yes. I mean, perhaps we would. Some traders might look at it that way, but be mindful of earnings over here. Now, I want to point this out as we talk about this too, but this would be the projection, and it could get that longer flag pattern moving here, right here, from high to low. Take that level. Gosh, everything's yellow right here, but bear with me. I'll mix up the colors here in a little bit, but there you go. So let's say wherever it breaks out at, that is your projection to the upside, and actually is above resistance. Not to say that it couldn't hold. I mean, resistance is 400. It's a big round number, but I'm just saying there could be something in here to get it going. Now, it brings up the point, earnings. What do we do ahead of earnings? Well, maybe there's a little bit of caution there. Maybe sometimes you want to wait for prices to get, get the stock past earnings to see what's going on with the price. And sometimes to do that, traders may consider doing a 1/2 position on this. Okay. A 1/2 position. So let's do this. I'm going to do this right now. Yeah, we'll do the alert. Let's do the alert on it right now, and we'll go from there. But let's see. That's where the potential trajectory would be. I want to talk about maybe implied volatility increasing on an option over here too. And that can push, it can actually keep some of the premiums high right now as we're approaching this level. And then we could maybe set maybe a strike down here as well or something. I'm not sure. But what we could do is put this down here as well. Yeah, all right. So let's do this. Yeah, and I will share that here in just a second. But let's do this first on the alert. So if you just go in and you click on create an alert, if we were looking for a stock that we're tracking, we want to be notified when it breaks above, like say, if for example, texted us or whatever, it can text us, it can email us. Just go into the alerts, go into price, go down to study. So there is a simple moving average setup. I'm going to use this one. And just so you get everybody can see it from scratch. It's either going to be true or false, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit that study right now. And I'm going to say, and you're going to see the alert come off here. It'll show us. But if we like yesterday, we were below the 10. But if we're watching this for a move, we could come over here and I'll just show you where I clicked again. So I'm clicking on add condition, price, closing price. Generally, people are looking for closing prices. Crosses above that indicator, which is the simple moving average right there. So the simple moving average of 10, and it's simply just a cross above. Okay. And when you keep it at 1 bar, that just means you're going to get notified as soon as it happens type thing. I'm going to click on save. All right. And that is the condition. In fact, there it is under the thing script right there. Simple moving average crosses above. We just created it basically in the condition wizard. It's a great little tool to help us do that. I'm actually fulfilling a specific question that we had on this. Okay. But the study is at or above. It's got this price. I'm just going to say the study, remember on this one, you just want to say is true because we built this study. Is it above it or not? Sorry, that's one last component. Once you do create it, what is nice is you have it set up down here you can use this way. But there are a few things. I'm just going to come down here in my notes to the text I would receive and just say above 10 DMA, day moving average. Make sure that down below you have the notify with, the push notifications to mobile devices. And then to set this up, of course, you'd want to go over here and click on setup application settings and go to notifications so it can text you or email you. That's how that's done. Okay. That's just the general process to getting that done. I want to say just too, with alerts aren't guaranteed to be delivered any specific speed or time frame. Should not be used as a replacement for actively being aware of your positions. Have I had any issues with alerts during market hours? I haven't. I haven't had any issues with it, but I've received my alerts. But I just want to make that note. Okay. So that is something I wanted to bring up just to hit a question in there. Now this here, let me just quickly hit this. So there is the sector rotation. Again, fixed scripts aren't guaranteed for timeless or accuracy. So be mindful of that. And this is the grid for that. So you can look at the rotation. Basically, you're just looking at, on each of these, just again, relative strength to the market. Okay. So here you go. It's in the chat. Sector. relative, spell it out here, strength. Okay, there you go. All right, so back to our trade setup here. Now, if prices were to break up higher here and continue on, I mean, we have earnings, but how could we, because we're coming into earnings season, a lot of these companies are going to be facing earnings here. But one of the things we'd want to do maybe do something that's maybe bullish to neutral or like one half of our position, perhaps. You could do one of those two. You could come down here, you could say something like, for example, well, what if somebody just said, hey, maybe I'm interested in, I'll give myself a little bit of a buffer zone here, maybe like a 320, a 310, a 300 right through here or here to maybe sell a put to generate some income. Of course, if the price of the stock goes below that level, it can be assigned. Well, short options can be assigned at any time, but you'd be looking to buy 100 shares of stock if you did something like that. But I still wanted to highlight it as a way to kind of explore how a trader could look at this. If they thought there could be some bigger fluctuations around earnings and they wanted to give it a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of a buffer zone. So let's go up top here. We looked at what were the 320s at? So this right here, so there's your 320 down to the 300 right there. If I just pick the mid-range, which is about a 310, pretty decent spread here. Some really good open interest in the thousands. Of course, the stock is almost at 11 million shares a day. So it's a higher price stock, but there is some liquidity here. If I tried to get something, let's just say like a 4 or equivalent to, standard equity options contract, $400 credit, or to stay above that level. You can see the buying power effect here. You can see some other indications here, but I'm gonna go ahead and just sell this one. This is going out for the full month. All right. And yeah, we'll see if that fills. But anyways, that would be putting on here a short put at the 310. So maybe if somebody does this, they wait till gets past earnings because the IV can really drop off substantially post earnings as well. So I wanted to kind of position this. It's a little bit tricky when you factor in earnings, but hey, I had to throw it out there, right? Because I wanted to mention this. You can track that IV too. Implied volatility, just IMP volatility right off the chart. And you can see how it's climbing ahead of earnings. Now, all else equal, this increases the premium for those option contracts. In this case, the put, all else equal, it'll raise those. But after post earnings, you see it dip. And so if you were still expecting to be bullish, well, perhaps, and it stays somewhat close to where it's at or even goes up or even down a little bit, the dip in implied volatility could really, really hurt that premium, which would be good for us because we're selling, right? All else equal, and there's the fill right there. Okay, so I put this on as an example, and again, this was really kind of a pattern trade. This really represents maybe a swing trade time frame here that we could be seeing, but we gave ourselves a little bit of room due to earnings coming up. Now, let's turn to some others now as well. Here is Apple. Now, turning to Apple here, I mean, and this is one area. I mean, JB does like tops, the robust ones up here. And look how robust that's been. You run up here, you just barely rounding right there. Looking at some of those tops, look at this range right there. Right here, we're holding on that Apple pretty good. We'll see. We don't know. I mean, just looking at the charts, again, we do have an earnings situation over here, something to clearly be mindful of, right? We need to be mindful of that. But we're seeing earnings. Let me kill that implied volatility. And actually, I want to add in now that not implied volatility. We're going to take it out, but we want to put in on balance volume because I want to highlight this and show you how this can be an early indicator for a move. We're seeing positive divergence right here. Now, this indicator looks at accumulation and distribution of volume. Are we accumulating? If so, up. If we're distributing, according to this indicator, down. You'd see it go down. What are we seeing relative to the price action here? Well, we're holding up nicely right at that level. Like I said, it's a it's a strong pull coming up, going sideways here, right at that level. Okay. On balance volume's already broken higher. That suggests, according to those that do use OBV, a breakout is in the making. Now, this is also known as a smart money type indicator. This is where volume can lead price. Nothing's 100%, but we're using this as a kind of a swing trade. So what kind of a trade? Let's put up a trade here. We got to get this set up too. Now, I'm going to use it a little bit more conservatively, but as you can see, and we've talked about this before, but there are patterns within patterns. This is a pretty good size pullback right there. But if I'm looking at a pattern coming up here off of this base to the top here, and we have not backed off it, not much at all. In fact, yesterday we tried to break out, we just kind of went flat. But that is your short-term flag. I've chosen two different color schemes to show you what this would look like. Here's the move up. We take that same move if we were to bounce off here and we say something like that. Price to press, right? That's the pull to the next pull. From one pole, you swing to the next pole higher. Let's look over here. If I'm using this as a longer term flag, I gotta draw this right. 1, 2, 3. Well, not quite, but there you go. 1, 2. Oh, geez. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Long term, folks. Oh, long term, that is. That's a T. Long term. My eyes are drifting off. And short term. The long-term flag would unfold at that level. The short-term flag right there could also unfold to that level. Again, we're looking at earnings. How do we protect ourselves against the uncertainty of earnings? Maybe we just go half here and half after. Of course, it could run even before earnings. It could run up. How many times have you seen that? I've seen stocks run up to earnings. I'll tell you what we're going to do. In this case, we'll just play the role of a trader here. They say this. They say, I'm going to go as soon as I can actually break above here and close. Or maybe they're anticipating one right now. They're going to say 50 shares now on the breakout. And I'm talking a confirmed close above this range here, maybe the additional 50, waiting for either that long term or the short term flag to unfold because they both meet approximately the same range. Let me get my numbers in here again, and I promise not to delete them again because there we go. I'm just going to duplicate it. We'll mix it up a little bit, but there you go. So if that is our low here, that's roughly our high range in here. That's fairly close, right, to where I was measuring 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think it is right in there. So longer term, shorter term. Do you see the swing trade potential right there? In terms of the time frame, right over here with Apple. Let's hit it. Okay, we're going to go in and I'm going to right click, create a buy order with an OCL bracket, right? Upside and downside. Here's the GTC on both. Again, we're going to go 50, not 100, right there. And we got that set up. Let me just set these up a little higher. That's our upper target range and lower right through here. I'll just set it. Okay, that's way low, but that's okay. Well, I'm going to adjust them on the chart. Always make sure that that order looks good. It makes sense to you before you put it in. Okay, there it is right there. I mean, it's doing what we had mentioned. We'll see if we get that fill on that for 50 shares. Now I'm going to zoom in because I'm going to do this. I'm going to adjust whoa, hang on. It's not adjusting those though. There we go. So I'm going to put the stop actually below. Yeah, I think I put it below, just below today's low range. But I know where our target's going to go much, much, much higher. I'm getting some slow fills today on my paper money. That's okay. My demo account. Look at this. I'm going to raise this one up to here. But also, what did I say? If we can get a confirmed close above, let's say, this range, I'm going to put an alert just above there. I know it's getting a little busy, but this is great. Great to have these tools here. I'm just going to say breakout, add to position, question mark. Put in the number, remind yourself, if you haven't written it down, 50 shares as an example. At or above. It's got to be at or above, otherwise it's going to trigger that alert immediately. There we go. I backed it out. Okay, so this is a cool one because we did have that OBV suggesting breakout already. Plus pattern within pattern as well. All right, so let's do this. There's the top. Some people do like bottoms as well. I know I mentioned JP does JB likes the tops because it's momentum. It's going. What about the bottoms? What about the value? What do you guys see over here? I'm keeping an eye on the chat. By the way, Eric said, yeah, short put vertical on that. Yeah, we could do a short put vertical. It was an expensive stock. I threw it in to mix it up a little bit, but yeah, it's a good point on that Google trade. We could have bought one lower, a put, to change that up a little bit. Okay, yeah, fibs on the flagpole, interesting. Fib expansion. Nice. Yes, you can do that. That's a cool tool. Let's use it on this one. Wow, before I do that though, what swing trade pattern could we see here? Anybody? It's right in, let me just, I'm going to give it away. It's right in here. It's in this range. There's nothing bigger, but it's one towards the bottom. I chose it because remember, volume, this is very rare signal. You don't get this very often. We got a lot of potential buying activity according to the OBV. Look at this thing. This really jumped up a lot, folks, here and here. So it says this right off the top. It said, "Do we exceed this high?" I didn't like my straight line. Not that straight, but we did exceed that high over here. Did we exceed this line? That's a yes. That's a yes. So that suggests that we could be on our way to these upper levels. According to the on balance volume, we will break these levels. That's what it tells us for those that you do use it. Major divergence, yes, that's true. Bear flag, okay. Bear flag, yeah, we're looking at it maybe as kind of like an on balance volume, sort of a scenario setup. Let me just show you one that might fit into a swing trade time frame again, which is 3 to 15 days. It's just referred to as in this case, when you get similar lows and similar highs, sort of a trick question, but I want you guys to just kind of see it. Measured move. See the high range and the low range? Remember, this is formulating off the bottom. So traders might say, well, I like, the possibility of a bounce off the bottom. I like a breakout off the top. So bounce, breakout, BO for breakout. That range, that distance. Let me just do an eyeball measurement here. Look at this. That's it. That's the only move. Now, this is a lot of points over here. It's getting real close to 3,600. But that's the entire swing move right now to get a start. Now, does it have to stop there? No, but it might continue above that level. If it did, this could be a cup and handle formation too. But we're using the the measured move off the bottom, with this insight from OBV that it could be formulating. That's a top, that's a bottom, folks. If you're getting value out of this presentation, just do one thing, smash that like button. It lets us know that, what we're presenting here, JB and I mean, it's a value to you. You're getting some insights here with, specifically within the swing trade time frame. Again, follow us too on Trader Talks. Love to have you guys follow us there. Definitely give us a follow on X if you're not already doing so. I've got about 5 to post on X today. It's been, I got to catch up on some I was going to post yesterday. So I'll do that. But JB, punch those in. All right. Hello, Lakshmi. And others joining us here. All right. Great. Let's do this. I can't really argue with the it has been trading down and it has been bear flagging too. So good eyes, keeping an eye on the trend there. No doubt about it. How about another one? How about Datadog? DDOG. Oh, how are we doing over here? Now the volume, okay, it's flat with prices not breaking out, but it is ticking up. So that could be interesting. You're actually showing a little bit of a bounce here on the RSI, but look at Datadog. Now that's a big move to the upside. You see the flag potential about right there, right through here. Now we jumped up and we're doing it again. Now, when this happens, and I've been seeing a lot of this the last 3 months, you get the possibility of a flag within a flag. Yes, there could be a longer term flag, and there could also be a shorter term flag in here. and oftentimes they are comparable, which is interesting. It's interesting that they do line up. When you look at something like this, you have to say we're going flat here, but if we look at on balance volume has done a pretty good job spiking up as we're flattening out. Now, has it broken above this high yet? No, but there's our Apple fill. Okay, they're really slow to that. I have no idea why, but we did get that fill in there for that trip. And so you can see that right here. So one thing I'm going to do, I am going to take advantage because we've been going so flat for so long. When you're right at resistance, hey, just give it a chance sometimes. Watch this. I'm going to right click and say, just create an alert and just say breaking higher. It's an at or above. Breaking higher here, question mark. Come and look at it. We got let's say we got our text messages set up, or emails, whatever the case is. We can do that. We can come in here and check it out. Okay, there you go. So that's one. Now, I want to go ahead and just move into another price pattern here. This is one really strong off the bottom. Now, the on-balance volume has been giving us indications for a bit. There's been positive divergence times 3. You don't get that all the time. Let me explain. I'm going to use these lines over here that are more accurate to highlight this for you. Do you see a low on the chart? Clearly, there's a new low. From here to here, that's a low, a new low. But over here, over that same time frame, we got a higher low. And what did prices do? Well, they went up and they challenged this area, but they did something else. They actually broke above the high range here, but over here we didn't. Positive, bullish divergence. Coming back here, we're doing it again. Oh, dang. I kind of lied. Well, I didn't see it. It's not times 3, it's times 4. Times 4. Price is basically just flat through here. Yeah, similar high. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. You can just count the humps. There's 1 off the bottom. 2, 3, 4. This shows there could be some accumulation here. Now, do you like the pattern? Yeah, that's right, Paul. It's sort of a sloppy inverse head and shoulder. That's what I'm saying too. It's the key thing though, right there. Higher low. It's a higher low, and it's supported by maybe some buying. Now, one of the things we look at, could this be considered when you say smart money? Oh my gosh, am I going to spell it all out? Institutional, yeah, that's the longest word. Institutional, perhaps buying in here. It takes a heck of a lot to move on balance volume up, but we might be seeing it right here. Now, it's been faking and faking. The one thing I got to say is, that's right. I'm coming right back to it. Let me know when we're above it. Breaking resistance. How about that text? Pretty clear, right? Breaking resistance. Explanation mark. What? Hey, maybe so. Check it out when it does. I want to know, right? I mean, let's just see. There's a lot of support in here. It might be getting bolstered up. Yeah, exactly. Oh, God. All right. Oh, wow. Lakshmi's been looking at it for quite some time. Yes, I did look at those as well. I'm going to just leave you one more. Actually, 2. Sorry, I like 2. Just to see, think in terms of longer term. This is longer term. Flag patterns. APH. You see it? Solid OBV, resting on prior highs. Maybe a follow through, maybe not. CDNS. See the long-term flag right there? Wow. Holding right near those highs. Be watching for breakouts here. Again, earnings. You can wait for post earnings too. Cisco, flag pattern. There's the breakout right there. Will it follow through or not? Wow, we could really be watching this one closely too. Okay. Not a lot of OBV just yet, but I always say this, it's held flat for quite some time. All right, everybody. Well, my time is up. Again, smash that like button if you got some value out of this. Give us a follow on Trader Talks channel. And by the way, it's great to be here with you today. A lot of fun stuff to look at. Again, everything today, it was themed around volume, that positive divergence, those indications, but also what could happen, what could be our driver here, maybe the market, sector specific. These were all technology stocks. All right, everybody. On that note, take care. Thanks so much. See you next time.